Okay, so I have got a little car show I want to go to tomorrow morning, and this carburetor is not right for a boosted application. Most of you know why. It is vacuum secondary. It still has the choke flap. It's just not right. You know, this is not the carburetor you want to use for your boosted application. I am broke bitch, so I use the carburetor I have, and I've had this carburetor for about 8 years now. And it's clean. It's not been backfired through. It works really, really well. I've had it on 3 different engines, and it's worked well on all of them. But I need to make some modifications to it if this is going to be, if this carburetor is going to work for my application. So there's a couple of changes from what I understand that you need to make. And that all mostly retains in the power valve area. That way, when you're going to accelerate, you have something to accommodate from, you've got your tipping in, which is your squirters, and then you've got, out here wide open throttle, but there is a period in there where your power valve sees vacuum and lets that excess fuel in to help feed the engine what it needs. But with a boosted application, you don't have vacuum under the carburetor, and so your power valve's not doing its job. So you can find these little boost referencing power valves online pretty well anywhere. This one was like $30, and Amazon messed up and sent me 2 of them. So it already has one in there. However, I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of faith in this, and I'm debating on whether I really want to modify my carburetor or not for this power valve, because I think they're garbage. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to show you why. Maybe they're meant to be that way, but I'm kind of doubting it. I'm going to make one quick change to this that I didn't make yesterday. And then I think I'm going to avoid the 2 other changes. We'll see. I may go ahead and make them. But I'm going to open the carburetor up and I'll show you what changes they say that you're supposed to make this work. And I'll show you this, give you my honest opinion on it. And again, not the right carburetor. You shouldn't have a choke horn on your blow-through carburetor. And it shouldn't be a vacuum secondary. Basically, this carburetor is a 2-barrel on this motor. But I have some plans in the future to either run a boost style carburetor or buy a carburetor that is a manual secondary, that is dual squirter, and that doesn't have a choke flap. Or I'm going to try out a fuel injection. I'm really leaning towards a fuel injection because there's some out there that are priced pretty nice. But either way, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to show you what I understand you need to do, and then we'll see if it makes a difference. And if not, hopefully it's nothing. I'm not going to do anything that takes this too far that it can't be reversed. So we'll go from there. Okay, so I am doing this a little bit different. They recommend that you drill and tap right here. This is your vacuum port. Now you can see mine is not that great a shape. It's already actually been chipped off, and you can't get this little drill bit in there that they send you. I'm afraid that it would break in there. So what I'm doing is I'm going in behind the power valve and I'm drilling and tapping the small orifice that sees vacuum. Now, this does definitely not require a drill bit, a drill. I'm going very slow, very, very careful. Definitely a lot harder to get metal out of this area than it would be the base plate. However, this was just the safest spot for me to make this happen. So seems like it's going in pretty good. Okay, I'm going to back it out now and send a little plug. Little bitty plug. I'm going to see if I can get that in there. And then I got to pull this power valve back out. I made some modifications to this. I'm going to show you in comparison from this one to that one. And I got to make some modifications behind here. So I'll finish this, show you the plug in place, and then I'll show you that. Okay, so plug is in place. This was just an easier area for me to get to. That's also extremely easy to just take back out if this does not work. So this is the first one that I had gotten. And one thing I'm not a big fan about these is, see, I wish I had a I wish I had a regulator that went down. I wish I had a gauge and a regulator that went down small enough, because I'd really like to play with the spring rate and see when this is going to open. Because to me, and this is just me throwing this out there, you're going to run 5 to 7 pounds of fuel pressure in your average carbureted application. Most of you know, and if you're unaware, then I'm going to explain it. You have to compensate for boost. So if you have a pound of boost coming into the carburetor, or let me rephrase that, if you have 7 psi of fuel coming into the carburetor and you have 7 pounds of boost coming into the hat, that's going to cancel out. That is going to come up with 0 pounds of boost. So you have to have things like a boost referencing fuel pressure regulator that when it sees boost pressure from the hat, it opens up the regulator, pretty much lets the fuel pump run free, and the engine use as much as it needs. This is to help enrichen that initial tip in, and I think even tipping into wide open throttle. One other thing I'm also going to change is I'm going to put a more of aggressive accelerator cam on here. This carburetor worked really, really well. It shouldn't, and people are going to give you all different opinions. It works really good. When you're in the throttle, it runs super smooth. This truck has 0 hesitation. This truck has 0 hiccups or burbles or anything. It runs good. However, when you go to tip into the throttle, you have a lean, you're getting into the high 14s, even low 15s sometimes tipping into it. And that also depends on temperature outside and things of that nature. If it's hot and it's saturated outside, it's not going to be as bad. But when it's cold and the fuel is really, really atomizing, this thing just can't compensate for that. And that AFR gets real, real hot. So I wish that I could set this up with a regulator and a gauge, and I could adjust that spring to where I could see it coming open at, 8 pounds, 9 pounds of fuel pressure, maybe. I don't think I really would even open up that much. I'd probably want it teetering open around 7.5 to 8 pounds. I may be wrong, but that's just my theory on this. Also, another thing is you want solid floats. You want nitrofill floats. This is a brass float. Long story short, when I'm done using this carburetor for the wrong application, I want to be able to very easily pull this plug out, put the original power valve back in, and put it right back on one of my other small blocks. That way it is just a good old carburetor. It's been around for a long time. Another modification I've seen done, and I am totally stealing this from Tony Angelo's Stay Tuned. He's doing this to he has done this to a Holley 2-barrel. He claims these orifices come in here. These are the small jets that feed fuel from your power valve. Mine's a little dirty in there. Could probably use some cleaning, but he claims these come in at around 60 thousandths. I am not entirely sure what these are for the Quick Fuel 600 CFM. He takes his to, I think, 5/64ths with a drill bit, which is about 78 thousandths. So we're going to try that. We're going to see if that makes a difference. These are luckily interchangeable and replaceable, so I can always go back and get some stockers and replace it. I know I can find the information online as to what they are stock size. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to drill those out. I'm going to put those back in. I've already got it plugged here. I've got 2 power valves, and what I did with this one was I thought that the spring rate on this one was extremely stiff. So compared to an original power valve, which obviously takes nothing to open, just the slightest bit of spring pressure. And this one, I thought, well, that doesn't seem to me like it's going to open when it should. It doesn't seem to me like that's a pretty, tight spring rate compared to an original power valve. That one is even tighter. So I pulled the spring out and I lobbed about 1/4 of it off to try to soften the spring rate some. Another thing I did was I actually put gas or waterline thread tape on this set screw, because if you blow through this, you'll actually get air coming past the threads of these. They're not built very great, in my opinion. Maybe that's purposeful, but I really don't believe so, because then if you didn't drill and tap right here and fuel manages to make it through this, then you're going to have fuel filling up this little port in here and filling up this pocket in here and potentially leaking out. So I did that to try and help save that and keep the fuel going where it needs to go. So I'm going to get all this put back together. I'm probably going to run to the parts store and see what the different aggressions are on the cam for the accelerator squirters, and then we will go from there. I'm going to put it all on. I didn't make any modifications I can't undo tonight. If it doesn't work, I'd really like to be able to drive it to this car show tomorrow, but I really, really, really don't like how lean it is tipping in. It didn't have that problem for a while, so I'm not exactly sure what changed, but I'm hoping this fixes it. I'm always very leery about making multiple changes at once. You know, power valve, you know, jet change, accelerator squirter change. I may go buy a pack of those squirters and then put it on the truck. That's something that just snaps on and off that I can change pretty easily. So I may just stick with these changes at first and then ramp up the accelerator cam and see if, you know, it needs that change. But these changes, they're all changes that come with putting in a boost referencing power valve. So I think that it's smart to make all of them at once instead of wearing out components and taking fuel lines off and making these changes again. So I'm going to get it all put back together, and hopefully it all works well. Also, they send this with you as well. Not quite sure what this is. I am going to assume this is an extension for the power valve if you put it in your secondaries, and you can bend this and maneuver it to go under the floats or whatever. But I would assume it's for the secondaries. Most people probably put these in the secondaries. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm back at the house. I pulled the metering block back off, and I actually softened this spring up a little bit more. And I took the 66s out and I put 68s back in it. It had 68s in it before. So I didn't notice really anything different from the power valve. I was still having lean rolling into it. So I'm thinking maybe I was just totally limited by jet size. So we'll try that. We'll put it back on, take it for another rip, and see what we can make happen with that. Pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with that. I got a brake still dragging. Not sure what is up with that. See, you hear it scraping real bad there. Not sure why. Cut her down the gravel here. Rattly old thing. Way better of a running truck after that. I get back to the house, I'll tell you what all pieces and parts I ended up changing in the end. So as you can see, AFR is much, much happier. And in total, I ended up going back up 2 jet sizes, readjusting the cam on the accelerator level, or lever. Power valve, when I took the metering block back off and I put the bigger jets in it, I ended up softening up the power valve again. And it seems to be really, really nice now. Actually, also got rid of my old dorky fuel line. Finally, I've had it for like 8 years, and I finally put a nice one on. So, yeah, stoked. Hopefully, it drives nice and as nice as it has been today up to Columbus tomorrow for this little car meet. So, ought to be fun.